Hey, have you been told there's a war going on? Bullets are flying, bombs are going off. There's cyber warfare, there's chemical warfare. The devil is throwing everything he has at you. In 2 Kings 6:17, we read, "And Elisha prayed, open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see. Then the Lord opened the servant's eyes, and he looked and saw the hills full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha." And I believe if you and your people could look into the unseen world, you would be horrified. Spiritually speaking, you would see something like this. And in a world like that, you need to make sure that you have put on the full armor of God, and that every day you do not go out into this world without putting on the full armor of God, and that your people know how to put on the full armor of God. I'll show you a graphic here that'll show you this armor. We start with the belt of truth. And one of my goals for this today's lesson is that you would have it firmly in your mind that you would have a gain of knowledge, that you would know what these 6 pieces of the armor of God are. And toward that end, I would encourage you to do some little hand motions. I know it's a little corny and it may seem a little childish, but I believe if you will do these hand motions, it will help you to remember what these 6 pieces of the armor of God are. And we start with the belt of truth, and I want you to ask you to put your hands down around your belt. Put your hands on your belt if you have a belt, and say belt of truth. All right, we're going to put our hands down there. I'm going to put my hands right here so you can see them, but pretend that they're my belt. Put your hands down here at the belt of truth, and then beat your chest and say the breastplate of righteousness. All right, belt of truth, breastplate of righteousness, and then your feet fitted, and I've got a shoe here to remind you. I can't reach my shoe from here, so my feet fitted with the gospel of truth. So let's say those 3 again: your belt of truth, your breastplate of righteousness, and your feet fitted with the gospel, the readiness that comes from the gospel of truth. Then we want the shield of faith. Everybody go like this with me. All right, you ready? Shield of faith, and then the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. All right, can you say those last 3? The shield of faith, and the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. Now let's say all 6. You ready? The belt of truth, and the breastplate of righteousness, and what's next? Feet fitted with the gospel of peace. Then we want to take on the shield of faith and the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit. And one of my goals for you is that you and your people would know all 6 of these, and every morning you would go over all 6 of these. My prayer is that you would do this every morning for a week, and I believe if you'll do it every morning for a week, it may have a life-changing impact on your life. I would encourage you to email your people and ask them to read through this passage. If they've got any notes in their study Bible, they could read through that as well. If you got some readers, got some people who are kind of fired up, you might ask them to go on YouTube and see if they could see a sermon or 2 on that. But ask them to read every day Ephesians 6:10 through 12. Because remember that these 6 things that I'm saying, the belt, if it doesn't naturally come to you to say the belt of truth, well, then this whole belt thing is not going to remember. If I beat my chest and you don't say breastplate of righteousness, and if you read that every day, that'll kind of come to you. So encourage your people to read this passage every day in preparations for this week's passage. All right, Ephesians 6:10 through 12. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in His mighty power. Let's stop there. The Message translates this: God is strong and He wants you to be strong. F.F. Bruce commentary on this sentence says, be strong in the Lord, might be rendered more literally, strengthen yourself in the Lord. It's actually a passive verb that says, be strengthened by God. It reminds us of that verse in the Old Testament where it says about David, that David strengthened himself in the Lord. And you and your people ought to know how to strengthen yourself in the Lord. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. We got our word method from that word. The devil's methods, the devil's means. And his means are primarily two. Number one is